Yes guys, what is going on? Welcome back to another video, and as you can see behind me we've got Max's beautiful M140 and my BMW M2 N55. We're going to be doing a direct comparison between the BMW M140 and the M2 in terms of practicality, reasons why you want to upgrade, or if it's a worthy upgrade if you want to say that. But yeah guys, enough talking, let's get straight into the video. But yes guys, let's talk in detail. So starting with the front, what I want to say in regards to the M2 is that as a standalone front, I don't know if that even makes sense, but from the front of the car you can tell it's an M2 due to these nice little wind curtains. I was doing some research yesterday, so I know what they're called. They're called wind curtains. They obviously help channel in the air towards obviously the coolers and the brakes and whatnot. But guys, I think the M2 front looks a lot better than the M140. I know I'm going to be slated for it maybe, but in my opinion, the problem with the M140 or the 1 Series in general, it just looks like a 1 Series, and so many, I've seen a few, like a 120i can look exactly the same as the M140. I think in terms of styling, you can do so much to it, and as you can see on Max's, he's done the canards to kind of make it match with the body colour, and he's obviously got a nice front splitter, which probably is going to get cracked off in about 2 minutes. But never mind, guys, I honestly think that the M2 front is a lot better than the M140, and especially if you look from the front on certain angles, you can just see there's a lot more girth on it, and that's just the front. We're not even talking about the rear yet, but in terms of appearance, starting just with the front, it's got to go to the M2. So the M2's winning just by 1 point, but if we're going to try and claw back some points for the M140, you can see Max has done a great number of bits here. He's done the Ryger diffuser, he's got the Cobra exhaust tips with the Cobra system that he's running, he's got some nice KSB spats, he's got the spoiler, he's really done a great number on it. But from factory, the M lights come with this cheap looking plastic diffuser that doesn't look great and doesn't do the car any favours at all, especially if your car isn't grey. If your car's grey, you probably get away with it, but in my opinion, it's got to be changed, and it just looks like it was an afterthought. Like, if they were going to do the diffuser like that, why not just make the whole bumper seamless, just one part, no two pieces? It would have made a lot more sense. So thankfully for this video anyway, Max has obviously got the shadow edition, and as you can see, the rear lights on the car, especially on the white, which is a great comparison with mine being white as well, you can see that the rear lights are absolutely amazing. Shadow lights in particular, people do tint them, but the shadow lights are just great. They're not too bright, they're not too dark, they don't go over the top with the tint. Like, you know what I mean, if that pulled up to my house, I'd think a drug. No, it doesn't look like a drug dealer's car at all. It's absolutely amazing. But if we're going to look in comparison to the M2, they're just a bit too bright for me, and I could be looking at tinting them down the line. I'm not too sure yet, again with the reflectors, but it's not an ideal, especially on the white paintwork. It just doesn't really look good. But if we are going to talk about the rear, the M2 does favour straight away. Everybody loves it. They all know, they put the emoji there with the booty and I think it's the peach or whatever they use. I don't know what they use, but the M2 rear is absolutely amazing. I wasn't a fan when I first got the car, and it did take me a while to kind of fall in love with it. It's got the BMW M Performance spoiler that probably could be changed to a CS1. I'm not sure. Let's see what we do. But the rear of the M2, in my opinion, looks a lot better. Where we're going for the quad tips as well, and I know we've still got that little plastic diffuser just there, but it's a lot more subtle than the big boy diffuser that was on the M140 as stock. So yeah, in my opinion, the rear of the M2 is where it's at. Okay, so starting off with the M140 again, I'm going to try and claw back some points, because if we're looking at points, M2's winning by 2, so yeah, we move on. As you can see from the interior, it kind of looks exactly the same, bar the dash bit, which is in gloss on Max's. You can spec it with a greyish sort of thing, but with the M2, you've got carbon fibre on the dash and on the door handles. And if we take some attention and look at this steering wheel, obviously Max has got the M2 steering wheel, so it's got the M Performance stitching, and the middle bit's the exact same as mine, bar the fact that Max has obviously got his in gloss black. It kind of looks the same, and obviously with the M2 you've got the M on the cluster in the dash, but other than that it's exactly the same. So obviously with myself moving from the M140 to the M2, I didn't feel any difference in terms of the cabin, so we're going to give half a point to each. So yep, the M140 finally gets a point, albeit with it being half, while I've got 2.5 points, so I'm in the lead. Okay, so now we're getting some points for the M140. We're going to start again in terms of practicality. So in terms of boot space, which a lot of people, if you do like obviously do shopping, or you do like kill people and you want to put them in your boot, it's very important to make sure the boot size is absolutely amazing. Also, a big shout out to Cobra. Obviously, if you're looking at this video, you want to sponsor me, obviously hit me up. Obviously set the whole system for the M2, and obviously Max has already got the whole system, so I don't really count. But yeah, obviously Cobra, if you want to sort us out, send us everything you want, and obviously we'll just sell it for a higher margin. Guys, so in terms of the boot space, the M2 actually I think is bigger than the M140. So if we just quickly go here, it's a lot deeper. It's a lot deeper. Hey, easy there, don't be naughty. But it's a lot deeper than the M140. However, this part here is obviously not removable, so you cannot remove this. This is obviously the windscreen, and obviously you've got the upper part here, which is non-removable, unless you're gonna like get the bolts and obviously get like the 10 mil and all of that. It's quite like a big job to do. With the M140, however, you can see parcel shelf removes, back seats go down, and it's ideal. So obviously with me obviously not having to move any big furniture around and flat pack furniture, it absolutely works on the M2. However, on the M140, parcel shelf gets removed, fold the front seat, and you can put anything in there, from a wardrobe to a freaking 17 stone man. So guys, it's entirely up to you, but in terms of practicality, if you're looking at boot space and having something that does it all in terms of carrying stuff around, it's got to be the M140. So yeah, point goes to the M140. All right, so starting with the M140, as you know, this is a car very close to my heart because I love it. It's an amazing little car. But guys, in terms of efficiency, straight away, I'm pointing at that ZF for a reason. The ZF8 is a great gearbox due to the fact that as well, when you're in any sort of cruising, so when you're doing about 70, it's got an 8th gear. So what it's going to do, it's going to sit at about 1.5 to 1.6 RPM. However, on the M2, we've got a DCT gearbox which obviously only has 7 gears, and the fact that it's got 7 gears means that once you're doing about 70, you're doing about 2 to 2.1 RPM. So efficiency wise, you're not going to be looking at great gains per mile. So I think if I'm looking at it overall, out of the tank, bear in mind we haven't done a big journey yet, I've only managed to get about 260 to 300 miles out of the tank. With the M140, I managed to do a journey up north and back, and that's probably about 350 to 400 miles on one tank, obviously Eco Pro mode. So yeah, overall, with the B58 being a newer engine, I'm not sure on the M135i's having the ZF8, but overall, I think in terms of just the M140 alone, because most people do go from the M140 to the M2, it's a much better engine in terms of efficiency. You cannot go wrong with it, and obviously with that ZF8, it's a great gearbox for doing what you want to do on a nice Sunday hoon and looking at efficiency. So yeah, point to the M140. So with the M140 coming with this beautiful B58 engine, which is obviously a great engine, it's won numerous awards for very good reason, and obviously if you're a follower of Williams Performance, you'd know that we're doing a big project on getting this in an E46 M3, so yeah, stay tuned for that. But if we want to talk about efficiency right off the bat, we already know that it's efficient, but the main reason why people do love the B58 is the gains that can be had per pound. So if we're looking at stock, these coming in at about 335, 340 brake apparently, and with the M2, however, N55 variant, it starts at 370 brake horsepower. So it is an N55, however, there's a few differences in terms of the pistons and the rods sort of thing compared to the general BMW M1355 engine. But if we want to talk about gains per pound, you can slap a stage 1 BM3 on here and you're looking at about 440, 430 brake horsepower. So obviously dynos are different. You get a few that obviously want to loosen up the tags and that and make sure it jumps around on the dyno. But in terms of power and what can be had from this engine, it's crazy. Stage 1 takes you easily from 340 over 400 brake. Over 400 brake, without a doubt, probably into the 430, 440 area. I want to say mine was running around that power as well. We obviously didn't get it done on that stage 1, but per pound you cannot go wrong. But if we look at the N55, with this starting at 370 brake, if you do slap on the stage 1, again a BM3 stage 1, just for comparison, you're only looking at about 400. If you're lucky, 410, 415, and that's just, and that is because the engine is what it is. Obviously with the B58 being a newer engine, it's a lot tunable, and I think they looked at the mistakes that were done on this engine and they rectified it with the B58. So in terms of the engine, you cannot go wrong. One thing to note though, on the M2 variant of the N55 engine, there is an overboost function. So in terms of torque out of the box, this is probably on par, if not faster, than the B58 M140. So again, if we're looking at stock to stock, this is a more powerful engine, but in terms of potential, you're going to go for the M140. You're going to go for this beautiful B58. Come here. And what Max has done here, guys, is absolutely amazing. I'm going to leave his Instagram in the description as well. If you are interested in getting your what is this, engine bay cover done, Max obviously doesn't do this, guys. So if you are interested, don't hit on Max. I got you guys there. Everyone's going to be, oh, Max, can you ever come back? Max doesn't do it. Max is just a G. He done it well. Matches the paint as well. So yeah, big shout out to Max. Handling, guys, in my opinion, let's go into a bit of detail. So, out the box, the M2, night and day. Having driven obviously the 140 for quite some time, I believe it was close to 2 years, the M2's night and day. However, the M140, let's not knock it, it can do a few bits. So starting from the basics, it definitely needs a diff. We've had this conversation. I know Lewis, power over hand, I think we've converted him now, but handling over power any day of the week. And anyone that owns one will tell you straight away, when you push on, it doesn't give you that confidence. It doesn't give you that confidence at all. And that's not to say that the chassis isn't capable. Yes, it is, but you've got to look at the likes of Jack Kitchener, Seb. Look them up and you'll see exactly what I mean. You've got to do quite a bit to make these handle anything close to an M2. The M2, with the subframe being bolted directly to the chassis, it's going to give you that, it's more, you get a lot more steering feel, and that rear end is definitely connected. With the M140, M135i, you know, you had that floaty feeling. Yep, do your dampers, do your bushes, do your underbody brace, and you're onto a winner. But you still haven't won. You still need to do a few more bits to do, like whether it's just springs and dampers, whether you're going to go the full shebang, control arms and camber to aid the steering feel. It's quite a bit, but the M2, straight line speed, feels connected, everything. It's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. With the M2 coming with a differ standard, components from the M3 and M4, it's big difference. So in terms of value for money, we all know the M140s are probably up there as the best hot hatch when it comes to value for money, if you want to still call it a hot hatch. So in my opinion, I think it does sit above in another category. But if you compare it to the likes of the S3, the Golf R, I don't know if you want to compare it to an RS3, but you get crazy value for money. You can pick these up for close to 20 grand nowadays, well spec'd with half decent mileage on for 20 grand, and probably less if you can drive a good bargain. And there's nothing out there that actually can do that. So value for money, it's up there. The M2, however, does give you, you do have a few options. So an option for many could be a Cayman. You could get a Cayman S, and that's roughly around the same, but a Cayman has got 2 seats, M2, 4 seats. So value for money, there's not much out there to compete with it within that bracket. Obviously there is the comp that you could get, but a comp is again another level above in terms of being able to access it. This is a lot cheaper than the comp, for example. Sorry, national speed limit, you know how it is. Woo. And up to 70, and like I said about the handling, you can chuck this thing around. Oh, and as far as you got half decent tyres, you're winning. You're definitely winning. Thank you, Mr. White Van Man. Got a bit of wet floor. What did I say? Got a little bit of wet floor here, guys. And obviously with this being my uncle's road, it's private road, so we can do a fair bit of hooning. Bit bumpy. So in terms of value for money out there within this bracket, in terms of getting a sports car, so it's not a hot hatch, obviously it's a coupe, so I'd class it as a sports car. For the money, there's nothing really out there that can compete directly with it. If there is, let me know, but for something that's rear-wheel drive, nice fun, that I could call a driver's car, with it being rear-wheel drive, they class it as a driver's car, it's a no-brainer. The Cayman is totally a different kettle of fish as well. It's not something you'd want to throw mods on. It's not something you'd want to daily, in my opinion, as well. And the M2, you could daily it, you could put loads of miles on it, and it's not going to break the bank. So for me, I'd definitely give this a point. But with the M140 being such an accessible hatchback in terms of finance and funding, and the fact that the power that you get per pound, it's a no-brainer. So I'd happily give them a point each. So yeah, half a point each. So overall, those are the main things for me, that when I decided to switch from the M140 to the M2, those were the boxes that I was looking at. So if you are interested in getting an M2 and you drive an M-Lite, M140, I know they're slightly different, but overall, as an M-Lite to an M2, those are the main things that were really concerning when I was going for the M2 purchase. And with cars nowadays, no matter what you're getting, no matter what you're going into, you know it's always going to be a thing. You're going to have to sacrifice something. Like for instance, I don't know if you've seen this video yet, but I recently drove the M440i X-Drive, and I could tell you straight, you got to sacrifice rear-wheel drive nowadays to get anything BMW because it's X-Drive. But what you do make up for is the fact that you can use all of that power band whenever you want. Like I was flooring, I was caning that thing, and it was just handling it. It was just doing it at ease, which means sure you're gonna have to sacrifice the fun, but you can obviously take the traction off. But it's not the same. But at the same time, you've got to move with the times. And if the times are saying X-Drive time, then it's X-Drive time. If the times are saying quiet exhaust time, then it's Chiztech modified exhaust time. But as always, guys, I hope you're having a great weekend, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless.